Welcome back to the Slate Show on the 1009 Network, I guess we could call it. Got our first full slate of the year. It's that time of year again. Last week happened. That's all we're gonna say. I mean, I
No, it
went two out of
didn't.
I went 2 out of 3. I don't know what we did picking games wise, but
I think I missed Vandy by a slim margin of 53 points. So
yeah,
hand
yeah.
up on that one. But
I don't know what our straight up records were, but I know I was 2 for 3 on my
I think
bets. So
you went 5-0, I went 4-1. We only differed on the Vandy game, I believe. I'll go back and look. But yeah, much better on that segment than the DGen part. But yeah, first real slate. And Tigers don't play till Monday, but packed weekend of college football starts tonight. Actually, we're coming at you on a Thursday afternoon. There's 16 games tonight, 8 games tomorrow on the Friday, and then about 1 billion on Saturday.
oh yeah,
Then we get game on Sunday, game on Monday too. So
yeah, just how we love it. I mean, I don't know. We got the backyard brawl tonight. First time that's been played in decades. I think about 10, 15
11
years. Or
years,
something.
yeah.
Then about the only, I mean, Oklahoma State Central Michigan's a good game because 2000. Well, last time they played, there was
That's
was
right.
when
They had a
Central
goal line
Michigan beat 'em.
call.
Yeah, with all the
Yeah.
laterals and stuff, and then Tennessee and Ball State. So I mean, that's about it,
Upset
really.
alert. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I mean, it's football. Football's back. Best time of the year.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to actually watch an actual game day show instead of whatever they put on last week.
It was tough.
But yeah, from 12 to 12, just straight football is going to be amazing. That's what.
Right. Got
all I
Hawaii
need.
kicking off at midnight, so really until about call it 2:30 in the morning if you really wanted to.
Heck yes, that is all I need in my life.
But yeah, like you said, tonight, Thursday, backyard brawl, West Virginia and Pitt playing at Heinz Field. I'm not calling it the other name. I don't care what it is.
Yeah, I don't even know what it is.
Acrisure, maybe. It's the stupidest thing ever. I'm not. It's the Heinz Field still. JT Daniels, Keaton Slovis, 2 Southern Cal transfers going to battle for ACC and Big 12 schools, which is really weird. But should be a good game. Spread's about a touchdown in favor of Pitt. And yeah, we'll just start there. We'll get to Saturday. But who do you think wins that game straight up?
God, I like Pitt. They got a lot of returners. I mean, outside of wide receiver and Pickett, but like Keaton Slovis is a stud. I think Pitt's due for another maybe a solid run like last year. But I mean, if we're going betting, I would take the over in that game too. I just see it. First game of the year, onslaught rivalry.
I like that. I think that total is hanging around 50 points right now. But yeah, I think Pitt wins. It might be closer than people expect. I can see it within a touchdown pretty easily.
Yeah.
Just because of how much turnover we're seeing on both programs. Obviously, Pitt lost star QB and maybe even better wide receiver who transferred out to Southern Cal. And West Virginia starting over at quarterback as well. So a lot of moving pieces, a lot of chaos. This game has a pretty rich history that unfortunately we haven't seen lately. But
it is 2 former teammates at quarterback.
That's true. Yeah, I think Pitt wins. Good start for the ACC, hopefully.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I think the spread's like a touchdown. I could see it easily within that.
I mean, the other 2 games really tonight are 21 and a half and 35. So
it's not Penn State Purdue as well.
I forgot about
another
that.
early Big Ten matchup. I think that spread's like 2 or 3 points.
I'll still probably take. That might be close.
It's at Purdue, which has been just littered with huge upsets over the years. Ohio State, namely. Big YouTube week for this. Yeah, James Franklin. I wouldn't say as hot as Scott Frost seat-wise, but another similar situation we saw Scott Frost last week. You really want to start a schedule off with a win, especially games like this that you're pretty much penciled in to win. Obviously, Nebraska didn't do that. Penn State would be much better served to start off 1-0 with the schedule they have in front of them. So, yeah, that's Thursday. Friday, only 8 games. You mentioned Sparty hosting Western Michigan. Virginia Tech goes to Old Dominion, which didn't go well in 2018, but hopefully, like Pitt, they put on a good showing for the conference at least. New coach there, Brent Pry, over from Penn State, so it'll be interesting to see how he starts there. Another Big Ten game, because why not? Illinois, Indiana, that's about a toss-up, I think.
Yep.
in Vegas. Brett Bielema looking to start 2-0 as the Illini coach. Only game Friday I had circled was TCU heads to Boulder to take on Colorado.
Yeah, that's just one of those.
Last year they caught A&M weird about beat them in Boulder, I believe. So maybe an upset. We see some wild things out west, but yeah, that's pretty much the pre-Saturday slate. Any other thoughts on that?
I mean, Saturdays when the games get good. I mean, TCU and Colorado is going to be an interesting matchup. I mean, you got the Pac-12 and Big 12, so little conference bragging rights.
Right.
Those kind of games are fun to see. I mean, we usually only see them in bowl games, but who knows? I think I heard something that Colorado's rocking some throwback helmets, so maybe that'll get them.
I mean, best live mascot in sports, I think, by far.
Yeah.
A literal buffalo, just
yeah,
running around.
biggest one.
Yeah, speaking of Saturday, there are literally 20 games I wish I could watch all at the same time. Kicking off with North Carolina heading to Boone, playing App State at noon. That's pretty much the highlight of the noon slate, as far as I could tell. That game's about to pick 'em. I was a little bit surprised to see that. I know Boone's a dangerous place to play. 15 years ago today, they beat Michigan. So, if you need a reminder how dangerous that team can be, especially at home. They bring back Chase Bryce, lost a lot of receivers. North Carolina, they got the win last week. They gave up 24 points to a third of an FCS school. So maybe more to be desired from the defense there. Drake May looked fine. I think 5 TDs, did whatever he wanted to.
Their offense was clicking.
Yeah, it was 35-24 after 3 quarters, which raised some eyebrows. But they pulled away as expected. And it was tied early, too. Just the usual sloppy stuff at home. It was raining, too. That didn't help. But that's the highlight of the noon slate. As you mentioned, Chase Bryce in year 6, year 2 in App State. I think that'd be a good game.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, that's definitely one I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Yeah. But also probably flipping back and forth between NC State and East Carolina. That's another one of those big North Carolina schools going to a smaller school.
Right, at ECU. Yeah.
I mean, that one's a little bit more. It's 11.5.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So
tricky spots for the ACC in the early slate, to say the least. Moving to 3:30, that's really the meat of the afternoon. The best games on the slate, I think. Oregon and Georgia playing neutral site in Atlanta, which is the dumbest thing ever. But playing in the Falcon Stadium, so some elite football being played there for probably the last time this year, until Monday at least.
I wouldn't call that elite either.
Well, half of it, we hope. Oregon, Georgia. At 3:30, Cincinnati, Arkansas, in a true road game for Cincinnati at 3:30 as well, and then Houston heads to the Alamo Dome to take on UTSA at 3:30. Those are the 3 most intriguing ones to me. What do you think about those 3 games?
Yeah, it's obviously 2 fairly big games. I mean, that Houston UTSA, I mean, it has some implications if Houston was already in the Big 12, but that's another year. Oregon and Georgia, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, are they going to have a hangover or what from their national championship? How good is their defense going to be since their D coordinator went to Oregon?
Right. Dan Lanning,
Yeah. I mean, it could be a trap game, but, I mean, it's also at Atlanta, and that's like 45 minutes to an hour.
That's a road game.
Either way, I mean, that might be an interesting game for some people with certain things riding on the game. Cincinnati and Arkansas is interesting to me to see how Cincinnati's going to bounce back after last year. I mean, they all obviously lost a top DB, top quarterback. And Arkansas has returned majority of their whole team except for that. I think his Burt or whatever his name was.
Treylon Burks, receiver. Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's a sneaky 9-win team last year in Arkansas. I think. If they really want to build that program up to what it was when we were kids and not what it was lately, which is largely an embarrassment.
Years.
Right. And not the winless in SEC play years. 9 wins is a good stepping stone. Consistency is the next thing there. And Cincinnati, a big test. I mean, credit to these schools for playing out on campus, too. Not these cop-out NFL stadiums.
Imagine doing that. Schools. Wouldn't do that.
No. But, and then, Houston, UTSA, just interesting. Houston, a team with bigger things on the horizon and conference realignment. UTSA was a fun team recently. So,
and Astrodomes are cool.
Absolutely.
Alamo Dome.
Yeah. Great venue as well. So,
yeah.
Moving on a little bit later, BYU headed to the Fighting, what are they, the Bulls, South Florida? Yeah,
The
at
Fighting
4
Jeff
o'clock.
Scott. Come on now.
I couldn't remember his last name for some reason. The Fighting Jeff Scotts is what I was going to say. At 4 o'clock, hosting BYU. That's, of course, Raymond James Stadium down in Tampa. But it seems like do or die for Jeff Scott. I mean, I know that's not a program with super high expectations, but he's got to get some traction. And a great way to do it is you host a ranked team week 1 and, at the very least, put on a show and keep the game close. I think it's like a 2-touchdown spread, somewhere around there. So expect it to be competitive.
DraftKings got it at 12. So, I mean, just try and cover. That'll make you look better, even though
right.
not a lot of fans look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you give me a reason to sit there and watch for 4 quarters. I think that's, even recently a step in the right direction. So, hopefully competitive showing there for Jeff Scott. He's got some Clemson transfers there as well. So some more talent on that roster too that could help. But yeah, one of many Clemson plugs with Jeff Scott there. Moving on to the late slate, Utah headed to the Swamp to play Florida at 7. That's talking about implications. That might be the most important week 1 game as far as implications go. If the Pac-12 wants to be represented in the playoff, Utah's got to win this game. I mean, there's no.
I mean, I need them to. That was one of my picks for the playoffs. A lot of hopes on them.
Same. Yeah. I don't see a path to the Pac-12 outside of just everything going right from the start in Southern Cal. Maybe Oregon if Bo Nix clicks right away. And they I wouldn't say stun, but they surprise and win week 1 against Georgia.
I mean, Pac-12 easily has to go undefeated. I mean, that's plain as simple.
And if you're going to have one loss, it can't be this. I mean, if Utah, their one loss to Southern Cal in November, maybe win the conference, then you're talking. But you're losing to Florida and then another game, and then after that, it's
this could be a year with a 2-loss playoff team, but not from the Pac-12.
No, right. We could see history there, a 2-loss team in the playoff, but it certainly won't be from the Pac-12, unless it's like 2007 levels of chaos. Which even then, I don't know if we'd get to the 4th best team in the country coming out of the Pac-12 with 2 losses. So, big game for a conference. Big game for Florida. The win total's at 7. People not expecting a lot, but Anthony Richardson has a lot of hype behind him, so he'll get a shot at home against one of the best teams in the country right off the bat. So that's big for him and the Florida program. Billy Napier in year 1 there, I believe.
Former Clemson OC.
Right.
It's going to be also interesting to see Utah come all the way to the East Coast, playing this humid weather when they're used to mile high, not mile high, but higher elevation. So that also might come into play a little bit, but still.
I agree.
They still got to win it.
If you're looking at the AP poll, the biggest game of the whole weekend is number 5 Notre Dame headed to the Horseshoe to play number 2 Ohio State, the only top 5 matchup on the slate. That's 7:30 in prime time.
Top 5 matchup, but it's a 17-point spread.
There's a pretty big disparity. Like we said in the preview show a couple weeks ago, it's Bama, Ohio State, and then question marks. So if you want a bigger indicator of that, it's Marcus Freeman's first game coaching a number 5 team in the country.
At the Horseshoe at night.
Right. Catching 17 points, which it is a hostile environment. It's a true road game. Again, credit to both these schools for doing that. So, I mean, 17 seems like a bit much, just because you'd like to think these big marquee games are close, but we've seen in the past it doesn't work out like that. But big test for Marcus Freeman, obviously. Ryan Day in Ohio State. If it was ever going to be the year, it might have to be this year. So,
definitely.
Stroud surely NFL bound after this season. They got Jackson Smith and Jigba next to him. Trayvon Henderson running back. So they've got, exactly. So you're starting over almost like Georgia after this year. And so, really big game there.
A late game for that. After, I mean, if you got anything else on that game.
No, that's about it. As far as implications go, it's that and that Utah game.
Yeah. Looking at ACC-wise, Louisville and Syracuse also opened up the season playing against each other. I mean, that's going to be interesting. I find it interesting to see how Malik Cunningham's going to come out. Because a lot of people are writing him as a guy to be on the lookout for, like a Heisman contender too, just because of his skill set. And then just to see how 2 teams that Clemson will play down the road are going to look. Obviously, because they're both in our division, and But other than that, there's really nothing crazy for the rest of the night. But I mean, Sunday you got Florida State, LSU, which would be interesting. Hopefully, Florida State can go there and get something out of it. I think that's it.
Right.
Is that in New Orleans?
It is, yeah.
Another one of those. Hey,
Right. Next door
play
neutral
NFL
site.
stadium. Yeah.
Right. Which,
Whoops.
good for the fans, bigger venue, all that stuff. Yeah, you mentioned Louisville, Syracuse, the only ACC game all weekend. It's 8 o'clock where it should be on the conference's network. Yeah, we'll see both of these teams. Like Lake Cunningham, I was pumped the brakes on Heisman sleepers because of the teams he has to go through. I mean, certainly Clemson, NC State, you go down the list.
There's just a lot of people just like having him as like a dark horse, but
right. I mean, yeah, I could see it. He's got the talent to just like Lamar Jackson did. Just a question of the rest of the team around him. Scott Satterfield has got to start putting up wins and not quotes, or else he may be moving on. So, yeah, interesting ACC opener. And yeah, in prime time like it should be. But yeah, other than that, that's
about it for the first weekend.
Big weekend for Georgia State. The history of beating SEC teams.
A lot of
the
people.
Opener.
A lot of people are talking. I've listened to a lot of podcasts and stuff. They're not writing that down necessarily for a Gamecock win.
No, I mean, we just saw in 2019, 18, they got paid $950,000 to go to Knoxville and beat Tennessee opening weekend. So I'm not going to predict that personally as much as I would love to see Spencer Rattler start with a loss, but
yeah, I'm just going to stay away from that.
That's one of those NC State, ECU, and North Carolina, App State, one of those games that now South Carolina is playing at home is the difference there between those other two. But you got to be really, really nervous if you're a South Carolina fan. But they may not cover. I think it was 12, 13, somewhere in there.
Yeah, they might help with the over, but
right. But I couldn't honestly look at you and tell you that Georgia State would, I'm going to pick them to win outright. Like I said, scare them likely, maybe. Yeah. But like you said, Florida State, LSU Sunday, and Florida State catching, I don't know, field goal in that game.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly era starting off in Baton Rouge. And then, of course, Monday, Clemson Tigers take on Georgia Tech in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta again.
Favored by about 22.5, so.
That seems about right, to be honest.
But we're not the best at covering spreads, so.
No, we're not, which is why I could see 21, I could see 24.
I could see 18. Anywhere from 18 to 24, I can see.
Right. Well, if tradition holds and Dabo's, cycling through every player got a bust, then I could absolutely see that backdoor covering, or, they win the fourth quarter 7-3 and cover or something like that. But it'll be interesting to see how many quarterbacks we see and when we see them. Brendan Streeter has been in front of media saying that we can expect to see both, depending on contingencies that weren't revealed to us but can pretty much be guessed. That's DJ and freshman Cade Klubnik. So hopefully, if we do see two or more QBs, it's in a rout and not some sort of pressing emergency. But how are you feeling about the season opener for Clemson on Monday night?
Let's just start off on the right foot. I need to see some offensive production. I know the defense will be there, so we'll probably talk more about it. We'll get it more in review. I don't want to get too much into it because my homer will come out.
Right. Objective to a fault. But yeah, so that's pretty much the slate. Do you have those 5 games up that I sent you guys?
Best part of the show.
All right, we're gonna do this game day style, and so the first one I circled, I think one of the more interesting games of the weekend, to be honest, is North Carolina heading to Boone to play App State. That's a 1-point spread, interestingly enough, and
that's like you said. It is a pick 'em.
Right. So who you got winning that game?
Oh, I really, 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 really want to trust C Breezy. I got to go with UNC. That's just I'm going UNC.
When in doubt, trust Chase Bryce. I'm gonna go App State.
Yeah, sorry Chase, if you're listening to this, don't get mad at me. Looks like our other correspondent, looks like he's going with App State as well.
Okay.
With Jacob Nelson, he sent us some picks since he's not able to make the show. So
Here we go. All right. Next up, Oregon and Georgia.
like I mentioned earlier, this game might be interesting for other reasons, but I'm going to go with Georgia. I think there's still too much talent there. They got 3 stud tight ends, whatever way they use them. They still got the postman. So I got Uga.
Yeah. I mean, if you see people crowd around on TV watching a 20-point game with 4 minutes left, you'll know why it's 17-point spread. But as much as I want to see Dan Lanning and Bo Nix click in year one, I'm going to take Georgia as well. I think it's just too much. They're headed across the country. Even if it's ugly, I think they do at least get the dub. So I've got Georgia in that game.
And Jacob as well has Georgia.
I mean, yeah, I expect a consensus on that one. Next up, much closer spreads, about a touchdown. Cincinnati heading to Fayetteville to play Arkansas. Who you got there?
I like Arkansas. It's hard to replace a guy like Desmond Ridder and Sauce Gardner. Was it Sauce Gardner? Was that his last name?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then Arkansas, like we mentioned earlier, they pretty much return everybody. So, on the front line and
KJ Jefferson's back. Yeah, I got Arkansas too. I could see Cincinnati showing up and making a lot of noise, but I think it's going to come down to KJ Jefferson having to make plays late. I think they win. They may end up having to have the ball last to do it, but I do think they win.
Yep. Jacob just said Cincinnati plus 6.5. I'm guessing maybe. I don't know. He didn't respond.
That's fine.
We'll give him Arkansas straight up. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He'll join us.
Sure. But all right, 4th game I had circled Utah against Florida. Who you got?
Yeah. Got the Utes, like we mentioned earlier. We need them to, since we both got them in the playoffs, we need them to win as many games. And this is one of those big games.
You can't hedge playoff picks in September. So I'm going to take Utah. I think AR-15, or formerly known AR-15, Anthony Richardson. I think he does well in year one as the known starter. I think Florida could do a touch better than that win total of 7, but I don't think they start off with a win. I think Utah takes the opener.
Yeah.
Who did Jacob have for that one?
Yeah, he had Utah. I forgot about him. Whoops.
Cool. Yeah, no problem. All right, last one on the whip around. Notre Dame headed to Columbus to play Ohio State. Who you got?
As much as I hate him, got Ohio State. I just think they got too much talent. Obviously, I also have them in the playoffs, so.
Yeah, I don't love it. I won't be rooting for them personally, but I do think they win Ohio State. I think just too much change going on at Notre Dame. And I think Ohio State, being, I think, at least the second best team in the country, getting a true home game to start, even if it is the number 5 team in the country, I think they've got to start with a win. So I'll take Ohio State.
Yep. And Jacob as well has Ohio State. So y'all differ from me by 1 pick. So we'll see how that ends up. Kind of like last week, but no crazy games, but like still some good games. I mean,
right, spreads are a little far apart, but there's quality teams. Yeah,
quality games, but kind of obvious pick'ems.
Right. Speaking of picks, I've got 3 ready. What about you? I'm gonna kick it off. We just mentioned this game, App State. I'm gonna take them even money on the money line to get the dub at noon on Saturday.
Gotcha. I'm not gonna touch that game. I'm gonna go with a game at 3:30 for my first pick.
Okay.
I've been hinting at it. Oregon and Georgia. I like Georgia to cover 17 points.
I mean, yeah, I can't knock that at all.
So that's one that I got.
Yeah. Second one, it's kind of a cop-out. It's tomorrow, not Saturday, but I like Illinois. They're getting 2 points. I'll take the 2 points. I think the dominant home win last week was big just to get things clicking in Champaign. I think, true conference road game's tough early in the year, but having that 60 minutes of football under your belt, they beat Wyoming by about 30 in a game that some had circled as maybe an upset, and it was never really in doubt. Running back Chase Brown played excellent. I think he had 3 TDs. Tommy DeVito looked pretty good. His first game in Illinois, coming from Syracuse. And Indiana replacing a defensive coordinator to try and revive a bad defense. I don't think it happens this early. So I'll take Illinois +2.
My second one that I'm going with, we talk about it a lot, Utah and Florida. I see a lot of points in that game. I got the over. I think what is that? It's at 51.5. I think there's going to be a good bit of offense coming from that game. So
yeah, I like that.
Over.
I mean, it's 2 talented QBs. One a little bit more proven, but certainly potential. I mean, that could be a 49-35 type thing towards the end. But yeah, I like that game as well. But I'm gonna just double down on Utah. I'm gonna take the 3 points, lay the 3 points. I think they win by more than a touchdown. I don't think they just go in there and blow them out.
Yeah.
But I do think 3 points is not enough. So I'm going to take them to win by at least field goal. And we've been talking about Utah half the show, but getting O-line starters back, this team returns a ton of talent from a 10-win team last year. That was, a late Cam Rising injury away from winning a Rose Bowl and really putting themselves on the map. So
yeah.
I think Kyle Whittingham has a really special thing going, and I think they win convincingly in week 1.
Yep. Speaking of their Rose Bowl opponents, my final pick, I like the over in that game. It's 59. I think Ohio State's got fireworks for offense. Notre Dame is not bad either on offense. So I think it's just going to be a shootout. It's probably I see Ohio State scoring upper 30s. Which would have to be in. Maybe Notre Dame sneaks into the 20. So I got over 59 in that game. I think 3 of Jacob's picks are for his gambling bets. He's got App State +1, UGA to cover 17, and Cincinnati to cover 6.5. So
okay, yeah.
Hopefully we got these work out a lot better for us this week than last week.
Right, yeah. Hand up on last week. My picks were terrible, but it's week 0, so it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Ohio State was on my honorable mention list. I had a couple more written down. I think Florida State went outright. They're catching 3 as well on Sunday night, and that's because I don't want to be objective. Georgia State +12.5, just because. But that's about all I got. Anything else?
I'm just ready to watch football all day. Some actual better football than last week, but.
Right. Yeah. Bounce back week from us. Me mostly, but good slate. And hopefully after this, you guys are as ready as we are.
Yeah, we'll keep some standings with these, see who has the best percentage at the end of the year. So
maybe
get a little competition. So
right, that'll be on our Twitter at the 1009. So if you want to check on that, we had a recap from last week as well. See if you want to see how bad I was last week. That's unfortunately there forever because the internet never goes away. So at the 1009 on Twitter, the 1009 podcast on YouTube, and then of course, if you're listening to us, you already know how to find us on iTunes and Spotify.
Yeah, give us a listen and share us. Do both. Do it all.
Subscribe.